Temperature-controlled logistics sits at the heart of the modern supply chain, from supermarket deliveries and pharmaceutical distribution to food manufacturing and last-mile fulfillment. But as the industry works towards ambitious sustainability targets, refrigerated transport faces a unique set of challenges. Fleet operators must reduce emissions, they must comply with evolving environmental regulations, and they must manage rising operational costs, all while maintaining the integrity of the cold chain. In this episode of Logistics Business Conversations, recorded live and in person at Multimodal 2026, we're exploring how refrigeration equipment rental is helping businesses meet those challenges without necessarily committing to significant capital investment. Joining me today is Jon Jerrad-Din. He's the rental sales manager at ThermoKing. We'll discuss the balance in this conversation between sustainability and commercial reality, the role of rental in providing greater fleet flexibility, the transition towards lower emission refrigeration technologies, and of course, what the future holds for temperature controlled logistics.
Welcome to Logistics Business Conversations, the podcast exploring the ideas and insights shaping today's logistics industry. Featuring leading voices from across the sector, we examine key trends, emerging challenges, and the innovations driving the future of supply chains.
Hello, Jon, and welcome to Logistics Business Conversations.
Hello.
It's great to have you here today. Now, our sector is notoriously carbon hungry. It's a challenge, isn't it, to try and get our customers to reduce their carbon footprints?
Yeah, absolutely. Our industry is built around the diesel engine. And the diesel engine, as we know, has been somewhat demonized in recent years. And we have to find an alternative both for traction and for refrigeration to ultimately replace the diesel engine.
What does a traditional model look like? What are your customers related to?
I think if you start at the larger end of the market with refrigerated trailers, it really is still about the diesel engine, a diesel traction unit with a diesel engine refrigeration unit. In the truck market, very mature electric refrigeration market, but still wedded to the diesel engine to drive the vehicle.
So there's challenges that we have, getting down to net zero, it just feels really difficult. And, with ESG commitments as well, it's not easy, is it?
No, not at all. Many operators only see the ways that they have to change their operation because they don't have a refrigeration unit that will always work regardless of what the vehicle is doing. And that becomes a big hurdle to a lot of operators, that changing culture, something that they've done for what is generations in the way they've operated, to change their culture to accommodate a refrigeration unit that isn't diesel sometimes seems like a mountain they don't want to climb.
Complain about the margins. It is tough out there. It really is tough. And I understand that. So how can they find a way of ticking the green boxes, so and so, and still remain commercially viable?
Well, I think it's important to think that a diesel refrigeration unit, depending on your operation, can consume anything up to 2.5, 3 litres of diesel an hour. When you start to calculate what that looks like as a cost per year or even the whole life cost, particularly since, and it seems like many years, it's not that many years ago, particularly since the phase out of red diesel. I think as soon as you start that calculation to show that the total cost of ownership of operating a diesel refrigeration unit actually is very significant. So when you offset that against the savings that you'll make using an electric refrigeration unit or a non-diesel refrigeration unit, the return on investment and the total cost of ownership actually does show that it's possible to do that. And there's many operators out there who have already embraced this, but the diesel engine is still the primary source for the majority of operators out there.
Are there just sort of specific challenges within the refrigerated fleet sector that your customers face versus, for example, let's say a regular diesel traction unit?
Yeah, I think multi-drop operations, a short distance between delivery points, numerous door openings over a short period of time. That means that the refrigeration system works incredibly hard and needs to recover temperature. When you open the doors, you lose the temperature in the refrigerated box. So it means that the refrigeration unit has to recover temperature. And it's that concern that the fridge isn't going to work whilst the vehicle engine isn't running. That's the key challenge operationally, I feel, for most operators, is how do they provide the cold that they need to guarantee the cold chain when their vehicle is parked up on the side of the road at a delivery point without the refrigeration system working.
Is there any specific technology that the refrigerated units use that is sort of challenging to install or to develop?
Not essentially. I mean, there are
kind of the stuff that we know is already out there.
Yeah, Very much. The ThermoKing product has been on the market now for more than 40 years. And it's tried and tested technology. It requires you to specify your chassis in a certain way, but ultimately it's proven technology. And as long as your chassis is specified correctly, there are no issues with installation of that
I
product.
guess the clue is in your job title. We're talking about rental of refrigerated units. Can you tell us a little bit how that model works and how you feel that's going to start shaping the market as we know it today?
Yeah, absolutely. This actually stems from our parent company, Train Technologies. They launched the Gigaton Challenge, where as a global business, we're striving to remove a gigaton of carbon from ours and our customers' operations by 2030.
Now, forgive me for interrupting. How many zeros is that at Google?
A lot.
Okay, that's the answer we need to know.
It's the combined France, Italy, and the UK combined annual carbon emissions.
Quite a lot.
A lot. So as a global brand, we're striving to decarbonize the transport sector. But there is a capital purchase premium when you move to battery technology, which is required when you're going to look at a trailer that's independent of its tractor unit. How do you power a refrigeration unit when you haven't got the diesel engine? A lot of customers see the capital expenditure, the upfront expenditure as a big hurdle, something you can't get past. So at ThermoKing UK and part of the wider ThermoKing strategy, we're looking to provide a rental opportunity for our customers so they can sample electrified refrigeration product without a commitment to long-term acquisition, without that extra capital purchase, that can show them then that they can also use it operationally and it will do the job that their traditional diesel refrigeration unit has always done.
So the model hitherto has been lease or outright purchase, and the intention is to move that to a rental model, which has been associated more with sort of short-term solutions. But also then with that comes the environmental benefit of the fact that they're electric units rather than diesel. So you're removing that initial upfront.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So what sort of, how open is the market to this new way of thinking?
Well, we're at a very embryonic stage. We started this project seriously this year. So we're getting some initial traction. We're focusing, to be honest, on customers that have already got a very strong sustainability brief within their own business. They may have already adopted rigid electric refrigeration units or even smaller van electric refrigeration units, but the trailer is the last thing that they're still buying a diesel refrigeration unit for.
So that's more of a CSR choice than a financial choice, is it at this stage?
I think it's probably both, but as a way to sort of move that needle so that we can start to get traction on the technology that we know works and we know will provide the right solutions for operators. We feel that they're the right sort of companies to try and focus this on, and we are starting to see some traction. The first customer that took a trailer has ordered a second trailer, so. It's only one small story, but it's a great success story to start with that proves that the technology works, and then the concept of allowing a customer to try that technology without that capital expenditure also works.
So are we seeing it almost as a refrigeration as a service type of model, whereby if a customer needs to scale up or scale down their business, you can offer them the flexibility within the contract to do that?
Yes, absolutely. We're trying to be as flexible as we can be, because we want this to succeed. We know and understand from working with rental companies the difficulty that rental companies can have in having a fixed term contract, and we're trying to be as flexible as possible. You also mentioned service. I think it's a good point to say that all companies in our sector suffer from a lack of expertise in terms of enough engineers to repair the equipment that they have. And one of the areas that we're now looking at is, well, if we're already going to a customer's site to repair their fridge, if we can multi-skill our engineer to repair part of the vehicle as well, it really does become a one-stop shop. And for us, we also see that as a real big added value service.
For example, with commercial vehicles and forklift trucks, where electric units are now as good as, or if not better than, diesel units when it comes to efficiency or ease of use or other practical benefits.
Yeah, I think because of the very nature that a diesel refrigeration unit works regardless of the status of the vehicle, whereas with an electric refrigeration unit, unless it has an independent power source, absolutely requires on what the vehicle is doing. That has led the electric refrigeration market to actually strive and achieve greater efficiency than the diesel unit, you have less moving parts, you have less friction. So you don't lose energy in the creation of energy that you do with a traditional diesel engine. So it does drive greater efficiency.
And how are the units powered?
So in the trailer market, we have a battery pack, which is powered from motors driven by the axle. So we take energy from under braking to drive power into the battery, to drive power into the refrigeration unit.
Right, so it's not dependent on, for example, finding charging points.
Not at all.
Kind of roadside infrastructure.
Not at all.
Great. Now, are there any environmental or regulations coming along the line that sort of are shaping the conversations or moving the needle when it comes to the conversations you have with your customers?
We all know that the diesel engine has got a shelf life. It becomes a moving target depending on the prevailing government of the day, but we're in that less than 10 years to go before the diesel engine will be something that is obsolete. The other legislation that is starting to impact and affect us is refrigerant and the move away from a gas that has got a GWP in excess of 2,000 and get to a gas in the 200 to 300 mark. And that's now becoming quite a key discussion with a lot of operators, is that, I'll use that horrible J word, the journey from the traditional refrigerant into a different refrigerant without the compromise of the cold chain. And the other issue that it generates is it tends to be the lower the refrigerant GWP, the more flammable it becomes. So it creates a different problem in itself just by the nature of the gas and its nature.
I'm no scientist, but will we be having a conversation 10 years from now saying, I can't believe we are running units with 200 to 300 GWP?
I think there's a tipping point that the gain in benefit from an emissions point of view that a low GWP will give you will lose because of how much harder the refrigeration works and how much more fuel your driving system burns. So I think we should never say never. There's companies out there already that are trying to say that they can offer a very, very low 0 or 1 GWP. But I think when the market gets sort of 200 to 300, I think we have some stasis there.
Is there some technologies within the industry that excite you that are coming down the line, or say what existing technologies are the ones where you feel offer the most hope?
I've worked within the sustainable sector of ThermoKing for 9 years, and to now see that it's no longer the niche area that it was, and it's the area that we need to focus on and push for the good of our business, for the good of our customers, and for the good of the environment. So I think it's a really exciting time. And, the evolution of the trailer refrigeration unit, and who knows where that will end up. Currently we're a battery pack bolted to the chassis of the trailer unit. When will we get to having a battery pack within the fridge unit? I don't know how far in the future that is, but that's ultimately where I presume our market will get to. But I think we're at that golden moment where there's so many different choices available. No one prevailing technology is kind of leading the market. We're talking about powering a battery using free energy from the road. Other companies are using solar panels to power a battery from the sun.
Right.
And there's a place for both in our market.
Yeah. So if you're a talk to a logistics operator today, who's got a element of cold chain, and they've invested in a number of refrigeration units and expect to get a long working life out of it, what are the conversations you can have to persuade them to make the switch? It's going to have to be just a question of, let's wait till they're obsolete before we swap them over?
Not necessarily. One of the problems we have is that because of the price that the assets have now risen to over many years, a lot of customers have moved their model. So if they were an 8-year asset, they've become a 10-year asset. If they were a 5-year asset, they've become a 7-year asset. So we have got a marketplace that's stretched. But I think there's also avenues, and this sounds awful when you say it, but there is avenues for export into other markets where the diesel refrigeration unit is not necessarily as short shelf life as it is in the European market. So I think, yes, we're very, very mindful of the fact that customers have got a life expectancy of a unit. But the other great thing is most of those customers refresh their fleet every year. It's not a once every 10 years, it's a certain proportion every year. So you're kind of into that window of, well, as long as we know that they're going to buy something in that next whatever period, then you can have that very engaged and very informed conversation with them about that first transition away from the diesel engine. And it's also then great, you can say, you don't have to talk about doing it in large number. You can talk about doing it in large number, but actually today you could talk about doing it in small number, to test it, get a feel for it, understand how it's going to work, so that the next year you can take a bigger number. and the year after that take a bigger number. And I think that's the joy of the marketplace we're working in at the moment, is that we don't have to really focus on that big bang approach.
Right. So what about on a practical note? What does implementation look like? Is the question of swapping out an old diesel unit and popping in an electric one? Is it an overnight job? Is it going to take a week? How long is it?
So for the fridge unit itself, it's absolutely, it is unbolted and bolts on a new unit. You are talking hours, not days. The restriction for our axle power system is that the chassis has to be slightly wider than the standard chassis, and that's to accommodate the motors. So unfortunately, it's not something that's easily retrofittable. So you are into that world of customers in the market to buy new equipment or specify new equipment, which again is where rental comes in, because if we're prepared to buy and put trailers on the road that are equipped with axle power and electric refrigeration, it gives those operators an opportunity to try it without long-term commitment, to understand it and see how it works for their operation, and make a more informed decision on their next trailer build.
So ThermoKing would pair up as an OEM with a trailer manufacturer.
Absolutely, yes.
Right. You're making those connections across the industry already?
Yeah, so I was about to say all of the European OEMs, but there is one notable exception.
Yeah.
But effectively for the UK market, we're working with Gray and Adams. We're working with Paneltex. We have trailers coming from Chiro. We can work with Kugel and Kroner. So we've got a wide array of trailers trailer manufacturers that have already built axle power trailers that we can build trailers with.
Right. And are the signs positive, would you say, John?
Yeah,
It's striking me like somewhat of an optimist.
yes. I think that the market is now ready to sample it. We've got a small number of trailers on the road. We have some early adopter customers who have purchased the equipment as well. So we're now getting some very, very useful data, very meaningful data. It's country specific, and that's we've got trailers in service across Europe, but for the UK market, we've now got some very good industry leading names that have either tried the unit or have taken one long term from us, and so we can really now start to show other operators exactly what's achievable and what that return on investment would look like.
Yeah, it does sound a little bit like a culture shift, but just a very slight one. And it does feel like you're pushing against a slightly open door there.
Yeah, I think so. Talking to customers as well, their customer base is also driving this. So in the food service sector, for example, a lot of the customers that those businesses deliver to have an expectation that it's a sustainably sourced product. Now, I've used this analogy many times. We're used to seeing on a menu the calorific intake of food, or we used to see it on a food label that it's field to fork, or it's farm assured. I don't think it's a huge stretch to start to think that people are going to want to understand, well, what was the impact of getting that product to my plate, or what was the impact of getting my product to the supermarket, and what it's delivered on is vitally important. And I don't think when I first said this a couple of years ago, people used to laugh, but actually I don't think it's a stretch to think that that's not coming.
A few years ago at an industry dinner, I ended up sitting next to a futurologist. And he must have got sick of the same conversation because, I've always asked me what's going to happen. Now, if I could ask you, John, to be a futurologist for the refrigerated transport sector, I'm going to ask you to predict what it looks like 10 years from now. Are we all electric yet for 10 years, would you say?
What's next in logistics? We're asking the experts. In our Crystal Ball segment, industry leaders share their predictions for the future.
I think from a new acquisition, then absolutely. I think people in the next 5 years will be where it finally starts to cycle out within the new acquisition of equipment. There'll still be diesel refrigeration units on the road. There'll still be diesel lorries on the road. The cost of running those systems will have gone up even more, as we know and anticipate. But I think we'll start to see that the cycle of buying electric trucks, buying electric refrigeration systems will have comes to pass, that is the product that people are building, and that is what we would be building as a predominance of product.
Well, that sounds like a wonderful picture we paint, an emissions-free, noise-free environment around these busy logistics hubs. Sure, that would have many, many knock-on benefits for all of us.
Absolutely, and we shouldn't overlook urbanisation. So, as a country and as a world, urbanisation continues at a pace that's unprecedented. So more and more people want the nice environment and the right environment in the cities and the towns that they live in. And we have to get the product into those cities and towns that people want to consume. And that has to be done in a sustainable way.
Well, John, it sounds like a very exciting time to be working in the sector. I'm really looking forward to tracking how you get on with it and seeing all the improvements to our world that you're going to implement. Thank you very much indeed for joining us today at Logistics Business Conversations here at Multimodal.
Thank you.